This segment spotlights a podcast titled Femme Forte, all about women in music and performing arts. Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial, and this segment's brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals publish to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. Joining me on this segment is Amanda DeFrees. She's the host of Femme Forte. Amanda, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Amanda, tell us a little bit more about Femme Forte and who are the types of folks in your audience?
Yeah, so essentially this podcast essentially is pretty much for anyone involving in the music and performing arts industry. This can be for a student who's pursuing music and performing arts. Can be someone who's like an industry professional that's been in the field for a long time. What we have is we have real conversations with women that are doing awesome things in the industry, whether they're a professional musician or have applied something that they've been in the music and performing arts to their now career in very positive and successful ways. So really this podcast is for anybody that is a lover of music and performing arts, and if they're involved in the industry, any walk of life that they come from.
Amanda, what was your inspiration for this podcast? Like, what did you want to fulfill or give your audience? What inspired you?
For me, I am a female percussionist, and in the drumming and percussion world, there isn't a lot of representation of women. Like one of the biggest things I ask myself is, we know Ringo Starr from the Beatles, but how many like awesome women percussionists do we know off the top of our head? And so really being able to expand on that, and since my time with Ultimate Drill Book, I've been able to see the gap in resources of how to elevate our careers in the music and performing arts industry. There really isn't a lot of education out there for people like me who wanted to, be a touring musician. And so I've been very fortunate to have connections that I've made in the music and performing arts industry with people who are like on the Blue Man Group World Tour. And I got to talk to them and get to see their experience and how they were able to level up their career to that path of success. So it's really me being able to provide resources for those out there. They may want a similar path, whether it's, being on Broadway, whether it's being a, musician touring around the world, whether it's even them being still involved in the music and arts industry in some way. So I'm actually the director of media at Ultimate Drill Book. And essentially, what that means is like, even though I wasn't able to necessarily use my music skill sets to be like this freelance musician, I'm still able to apply my knowledge and my background in media and still be involved in the music and arts industry. So it's like, how can we use those skills and create this path to success, whether it's joining that industry in non-traditional ways, or it's using the experience that from my guests, from even me personally, and using that to elevate your career to whatever path that you want to go on.
I'd love to hear more about your journey. On your journey so far from creating this podcast and doing your episodes, what's been your favorite experience and learning lesson along the way?
Honestly, my journey, it's been very wild. Like I just started recording my first episodes in February of this year, and then we launched the podcast in June, and now we're about to launch season 2 later this fall, and it's been such a wild experience. I think not only have I been able to bring awesome, amazing women that I truly believe in onto the show, and get to share their story, which has been a cool thing. I get to see, some band directors that I brought onto my show. Former students are praising them all over social media, and now people who are my close friends and have some, awesome accomplishments behind them that I'm giving them a voice and a platform to share their experience and their story. But even me personally, I'm actually naturally an introvert. So like being on a podcast where it's more interview style and talking to people, that was a whole journey for me in terms of really learning how to be a great host, and me even building up confidence in myself to be a host, because I am always behind the camera in various ways, whether it's in my full-time job or whether it's in my creative Purple Panda Productions company as a freelance photographer and videographer. So definitely putting my face in front of a camera, in front of the mic for the first time, I've really been able to learn a lot about myself. And so not only is it about listening to the stories of other people, but since I am the host of this and really being able to see my growth as a person and a host throughout this entire experience has been honestly a wild, amazing experience.
Starting something new is can be super exciting, and it could be also kind of scary. Uh, uh, in your journey starting your podcast, have there been any stumbling blocks or any huge obstacles that you had to overcome?
Absolutely. A large part of it was just for me personally, imposter syndrome. Like as someone who is bringing on these people that what have such an amazing background and accomplishments, certainly this has been like a project that I've been very passionate about, and a lot of it has been my imposter syndrome of like, oh, who would want to hear from me? I'm not a touring musician. I'm not, this educator with so many X years of experience. And so that has been like a huge thing for me is like being able to push through those obstacles that I even face within myself and really being able to get out of my comfort zone and speak to other people in the first place. I've reached out to people on Instagram and social media and DM them, that have 40,000 followers or whatever. And I just really truly believe in their story. I want to share them. And with someone that doesn't have as much and, just started this podcast, it's definitely been something where, it's worth a shot. It's really stepping out of my comfort zone, reaching out to people that I don't think that would answer back. And, honestly, I've been surprised. I've been surprised that they have answered back and really love the mission that this podcast supports. And it's really has turned out to be such a positive thing. I mean, the feedback from my audience and the community that I've been able to build since this podcast has only been out for a couple months has truly been an overwhelmingly positive experience. And I'm so glad that, I've had people come up to me to some of the conferences that I go to, or even people on social media just DMing me saying, thank you so much. Like, this is well needed in our community. And it's just been so, so heartfelt to know I put so much love and effort into this podcast and people are responding really positively to that.
I love hearing people's paths to get to where they're at. I asked you in the beginning about your inspiration for the show, but what even got you here? Like you mentioned being a percussionist. Tell us a little bit more of your inspiration and even getting into this field. Take us back to your musical background and what led you to this podcast.
Absolutely. So I started band in middle school. And so I actually like through watching this TV show like on a kids network, like I knew that like drums and percussion was like my interest. And so when I got the opportunity to try out for band for the first time, I was like, I want percussion. Like I want to work so hard to like make the cut to make the percussion line. And of course there was like a large majority of the kids who wanted to try out, and I happened to make the cut. Like I was even practicing some rhythms prior to the audition, and that was a dream come true for me. And really, like I am that typical band nerd dork kid that like literally said band out of every other word that I was speaking. And so I was so dedicated to being section leader in middle school, and then led up to like the drumline captain and done all these great things, and like played in drum set and jazz band through high school and college. And so I actually started college as a music major, jazz studies performance major at Texas A&M Kingsville. And then that is when I really hit a really hard bump in the road, because at that point I had actually like music was such a huge passion for me that I actually ended up losing the fun out of playing, because like I was so into it and just worked effortlessly to where I got to burn out. And so after my freshman year of college, I actually changed careers to media. And so the reason why I did that is because one of the things that stayed consistent while I was playing drums is I would record myself on GoPros. I had this like dream of being like a YouTuber and like that famous like person that would play drum covers on YouTube and become famous that way. And so that's how I picked up video editing. And so from there, my parents, the freshman year of college, gifted me my first professional camera. I learned how to play with it, got into the media thing, and took pictures, and that led me onto a different path. So then I actually changed careers into media. And then through that experience, after taking a break, I found this job at Ultimate Drill Book and was able to blend both of my passions of music and media together. And so that was really the dream job for me, was being able to find my love for music again through a different avenue. And now I love every every bit of it. And so since being in my full-time job and getting that experience, I was able to be back in the music community, have more intimate contact with the people in our network. And through those conversations that I had, especially with women in our industry, I always joked, well, why aren't we putting mics in front of our faces right now and having a conversation? Because we were just having really meaningful conversations that were kind of behind closed doors that I felt really needed to be shared with the rest of the world. And so that's kind of where I am here. And so, yeah, it was a little bit of music has always been the passion, took a step back from it. And then I found my way back in a different light.
I love that your story, Amanda, is very inspirational and very instructive. I hope people really take that in because you had a passion, you just went and did it, and the opportunity practically found you. And I love that, and being able to use your gifts and your experience in a way that are going to help people and pay it forward. I absolutely love that. Amanda, before I ask you my last question, is there anything I didn't think to ask you about Femme Forte that you feel is really important to share to potential listeners that could check it out?
All that I really have to share is that I've really entered a new era with Femme Forte that was part of my journey. Was originally I started this thinking that, oh, I'm going to talk to people like really in the band community, whether it's band directors or people in the drum corps community, and share their experiences. But it actually has really expanded to something bigger than I can imagine. So the second season is actually really focused on people. I just had a recent guest that's a TikTok star that found her way through music marketing. And so it's actually being able to cover a wider audience of you don't have to be or know band to listen to this. Really, this is anybody and everybody who just loves music and arts and has found their way to incorporate that in their life and in a really positive, successful way.
How can people tuning in right now find more information about Femme Forte, listen to the show, and connect with you?
Yeah, so we are on all the apps, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We are also on social media at FemForte Podcast, as well as you can actually watch the video. This is a video first podcast on Stride TV, the app.
Amanda, this has been terrific. I really appreciate you taking the time to share with my audience today, and I wish you continued success for you and for Femme Forte and for all of your listeners.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
That was Amanda DeFrees. She's the host of Femme Forte, and this segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals publish to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for joining me.